wall or something in between, just some sand and it easily can move.
Which is that possible?
That's,
Is that right against the foundation too?
Yeah,
Yep.
as they do
Yeah.
foundation repair work.
A foundation repair work?
That said, I wanna think that nobody got down there, but I know differently just because I see the footprints.
Is that what they do when they lift the foundation? Is that what they mean by that, or?
What do you mean, like?
It's like
they're
footprints in
digging
the
out
sand,
around
that's
it?
where Jesus was carrying
I
them.
have a buddy that works in construction, he's told me that he like lifts the
They
foundation.
need jacks, like they're lifting.
Like actually like.
They're lifting.
Holy shit.
A pipe out there past those,
Right there.
practice room and that's about like-
Foundation repair work.
Maybe,
If they move
that's just to me, that right there is unnecessary.
All of this just makes me want to get into construction so bad. It looks so exciting.
It's definitely, you're gonna see different stuff every day. That's what's great about construction.
So,
That's why they get paid big money, is because it's so risky.
Well, with big risk comes big reward, right? That's it. So, here we got a guy crossing
Risky
over this.
business,
This
that's what you should call your
definitely
business.
6 feet or greater depth, so we would have to have some sort of protective measure in place to protect him. Yeah. I think the tripod's what's keeping balance. I think if he set the tripod down, he'd probably fall. I think that's kind of balancing him out. He's probably walking across that like that. Yeah. He's probably done that thousands of times like that. That's how he kind of balances himself.
I thought I was gonna set the tripod up there in the
I'm
center
thinking
right
If
there.
he slips off that pipe, he could really have a bad day.
I see, bang, bang.
Well, I was seeing him basically straddling the pipe below him if he falls off. I was thinking,
Settle this, spin completely around, gut plant. on the
Honey,
neck,
why are
spin
your balls so
completely around.
blue?
it'd be bad.
Because I
No matter
fell
what, it's
today
gonna
at
be
work.
bad if he falls off. Might not be a fatal fall, but he's gonna get beat up for sure. He's gonna be hurt.
Hey, at least you got a soft landing, the dirt.
Well,
If his head hits those pipes.
yeah, after he hits all that,
Pipe in there.
knocks himself unconscious.
Hey, collateral damage, that's it.
So, like I mentioned, the walkway, when we got 6 feet or greater, has to be protected. This is just giving you your guardrail requirements like we went over with last week in the falls. Big thing is making sure it's not gonna cause injury. So, one of the requirements is also, that like this ramp here,
God bless you.
people often refer to this kind of fencing here as like snow fencing. You see it used that a lot on the job, but like the snow fencing here, you can tell that this thing isn't actually crossing over the excavation because you see grass along here. But if it was actually crossing over, it has to have at least a 24-inch extension past each side to be appropriate.
It looked like it was
But
just
that,
an
obviously, like I said, they just staged that up.
it looked like an observation point.
That's a pretty good that's a pretty good walkway there. I don't know that I've ever seen one quite to that level on job site. That's, quality craftsmanship and really taking the time. They're definitely.
Somebody was like, I don't wanna do.
That was
Yeah.
built, that was built for the ocean inspector, so he could stand there and watch.
Yeah.
So he was,
I was just gonna say, that's how you know somebody's getting paid by the hour. Right?
Yeah.
that way he had somewhere nice and level to stand and watch the job being done.
Somebody told me.
Watch someone bury themselves alive.
Hard to get behind, you're paid by the hour. It's like, that's true. So, their emphasis here was really on the fact that guarding there, the guard railing around the edge. So they got it guarded. Pretty good job there. But look back there where you see that blue plastic up over the side there.
Tarp.
Where that ladder is accessing that landing.
No, really?
No railing there where they're on that access point. So whoever's climbing out there is basically exposed to, from there to there, probably,
So,
what do you think, 20 feet maybe?
In that
It could be
instance-
50, who knows?
In that instance, there wouldn't be a net down there since you're working higher, above that level.
I mean, typically you wouldn't see a net there. The best thing would just be to put railing up on this side, but they can't fall over that side.
No, I figured if they fall off the top, the railing wouldn't do nothing to save it.
I'm just saying it would prevent them from taking the fall. If we have a rail here on the side,
Right. Oh,
They
the
can't-
top of the, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
yeah, an ocean inspector's gonna get kind of field day at that front there. They're gonna go off and get people and say, you're exposed to a 25-foot fall. Blah, blah, blah. And then that, I can guarantee you what they're gonna say, well, we had this whole garden, and blah, 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 blah. They're gonna try to argue the point that they did all this, and they're gonna say, we don't care, you exposed this person up here, like, fall potentially.
So if the contractor took all the safety precautions and one of the workers still fell over, then it wouldn't be on the contractor?
So you're saying if we did have a safety guardrail up there at
Well,
the time?
I mean, at the bottom here, say a worker is walking backwards and fell over that guardrail all the way to the bottom. I mean,
Well, they would look at things like, was the guardrail the proper height, was it properly secured, all that. And if it was, and they still fell over it, could be a situation where citation wouldn't be issued, because if they had the proper height and somebody still, but, you know, if it's properly secured and everything, it's unlikely that they would just back into it and still get a fall over unless they climb up on it. And in that case, we're gonna say potentially employ misconduct, because they shouldn't be standing on.
Yeah, well, I was sitting on there taking lunch,
Yeah.
back in
Ooh.
yeah.
I mean, that dude is
Oh, God.
smart.
Does it say you have one of those?
Never done that.
Hey, he should have his card.
Hey, they gotta be a little,
He's competent. This is
I would
competent.
say you gotta be a little special. There's a little bit.
This is a great plate, I think.
Why are you talking about me?
Huh?
You know why I haven't done it?
No.
Because I
Got to be a little special.
We got some plywood.
That's putting a lot of faith in that.
That's from Home Depot.
Huh? Supposed to have
How
to bring your
wide do you
child
think
right
that hole is
there.
there? That's at least 3.5 feet, right?
I can do
Yeah, well,
it.
it curves out.
Look at,
This
well,
is
the whole seat.
Yeah,
That's
but
where he's sitting
I
up
can
there.
do it.
That hole has gotta be at least 6 foot.
that's true. I was just thinking about the width wise, it's at least, well, it's,
Thrill seekers.
it could fit in there, that whole Traco, X could fit in there, so that's probably.
Maybe 8 feet wide at the top.
We're just having some fun,
Scary.
Yeah,
trying to make a profit.
if that's their idea of fun, then I'm not hanging with them, because that's not fun, it's not usually
Yep.
a life-threatening situation. There's our, no handrail,
No handrail.
yeah, no handrail,
Nothing stopping it from sliding off.
yeah, no securement.
About the ladder over there on the backside.
Yeah, there's a ladder, I don't know if y'all saw, there's a ladder back here.
And it's,
So-
it's leaning.
So to me, that looks like that looks like the superintendent just looked at the labor and said, hey, we need a ramp here. Go see what kind of scratch you can find, and we're gonna put something together for that.
If he
And then 2 2x6s.
Well, he stood him up on it and at least.
So you get these compilations from all OSHA violations in your file in Chicago from the past to present to
This
us,
is not mine, this is a presentation somebody else.
right? But you guys probably compile them from other
They
investigations.
probably got it from the outreach center would be my guess, or they may have got it from doing inspections, I don't know. I don't take pictures when I do inspections because, that would be documenting, company stuff and putting in a presentation, that would not be favorable. Trying to have people pay for a membership in organization.
What you were saying earlier, that ramp has to be overhanging 2 foot on each side?
Yes, yes, and it's not secured there, 'cause it's just, basically He's able to make it up there though.
If it slides backwards, he going down.
Oh yeah. Like I said, they strapped that together with pieces they found on the job site.
Sucks being a labor.
Come on, Bart, I know you got.
Most likely is labor.
I've seen it.
Oh, I have to, more than my fair share
They
of
put
times.
the laborers at risk, making
So, remember what I said earlier about how wide something had to be a proper ramp?
Mm-hmm.
20 inches, right? So, probably got, what, about a 2 by 10 there. What else? Look at the board, look at this. Look at the top.
It's not secured.
Well, not only that, look,
It's cracked all
it's
the
a
way.
big crack all the way.
Probably from someone walking on it.
That or probably just from it laying outside rotting.
Well, it looked like, those look like nails, like they did nail it to the boards.
Did you see that stick hanging out on the side?
That's probably tree roots there.
I'm talking about at the end, like where the crack first started, it looked
Right,
like
right,
on both
right.
ends, at least
So
three.
maybe that's
And it's
where.
hard to see how deep that actually is.
It looks-
We don't know
it's
for a
dark.
fact it's 6 foot, but I assume as much. And,
So let's say it was 3 foot, 4 foot. Does it have to be 20 inches wide?
for it to be a proper wall, yes. But the thing is, in a lot of cases, if it's, depending on how wide it
You
is,
can't see even like.
and I'm not saying, I'm definitely not condoning, or saying this would be compliant, but in a lot of cases, I'll see if it's like 2 feet, 2 feet wide or something, even if it's 4 or 5 feet deep, they just jump across it.
So basically two 2x10s will work.
If you connect, I mean, if you secure them together, they're properly secured. And you wouldn't want to just lay there with a slide out. So requirements for our protective systems here, protection of employees and excavations, designing of slope and benching systems, materials and equipment, installation and removal, and slope and benching. So each employee must be protected from potential cave-in, with the exceptions of, if the excavation is made in entirely stable soil or rock, or less than 5 feet, and upon examination by a competent person, there's no potential for cave-in. There's very few times where you're gonna see an excavation where there isn't any sort of potential it could cause a cave-in. You think about it, the equipment operating nearby, that potential for cave-in, if there's really any kind of digging going on nearby, could put pressure on that, that's potential for cave-in, so it's few and far between. So it's kind of hard to see, but there's an additional person right here, there's this guy here. What do you all think, 5 feet or greater depth? I'd say
For
so.
sure.
Unless those are Oompa-Loompas. Then maybe not, but, probably so. So, definitely no protective system. And if you look at the soil, here, look at that. Looks very granular, sandy looking.
Also, that flat part, it looks like it's dug underneath it to where the top of easel.
They're either having a morning huddle down there, because there's no smoking job site, they're hiding the whole smoke.
Yeah, is that a slide? Is that a slide of concrete there,
Oh, you're talking about this?
No,
Here.
Oh, back
right,
here?
right there.
I think that's just
Or is it dirt?
a
Cause it's
different
like,
layer.
it looks like the.
Yeah, it's just
dug
layers of
underneath
dirt,
it.
so I think that's just a different layer of dirt than the rest.
It's amazing how the colors differentiate like that. That's how it is
Well,
in
yeah.
Chicago.
I guess, I've never done it in Chicago, but,
Chicago's not the place.
Love of clay.
you
So clay
go
can be
there.
like
I mean,
that
there's a lot
color.
of places you're gonna go where it's gonna be different
Soil
layers
has
depending on how
different
deep you
colors,
go.
like, the coloration
Like-
depends on
You want
the
to?
minerals and stuff.
I don't know.
So, I think we watched that video already, the ocean inspector. It's all about that one, so. Talk about that, that's a double stacked trench box there, so you can't just stack any of them, they have to be designed for that application, but that one is, so they've stacked 2 on top of each other. Slopes and configuration of sloping benching systems must be selected and constructed by the employer or his designated in accordance with requirements of the OSHA standard. So this, they're just sloping this one back, but look at the sidewalls there. You see that there? You got basically bucket marks, heat marks in the bucket, so that definitely shows some level of cohesion there with the soil that they're excavating out. And you can see that over here is the ramp for getting in there.
This looks a little better. There's some
So,
type of,
the issue here is gonna be a little harder for that person to safely get in and out of the trench box because of how far up it extends. So it's supposed to be a minimum of 18 inches, but a maximum of 2 feet that it extends above the surface there. That looks like that's a good, to me, it looks more than 2 feet. Looks probably closer to 3. It's gonna be hard. And they're still shifting that movement, it appears to be anyway, that person on the ground there's probably the labor standing there watching. Cause that ladder is just completely upright. Materials and equipment used for must be free from damage, this is a big one too, used in a manner that is consistent with the recommendations of the manufacturer. If you hadn't already gathered from some of this, OSHA defers back to manufacturer almost every time, because that's who's gonna have the most knowledge of the equipment, materials being used. Competent person must evaluate protective systems for damage. If they cannot assure the protective system is suitable for use, it must be removed from service. Protective systems that have been damaged or repaired must be evaluated and approved by a registered professional engineer before returning to service. Pretty evident what happened to this trench box here when you look at the side of it. He just got the side of it. So I'm not sure what he's looking at. Maybe he's just trying to determine if we're gonna all go through.
The whole smash,
someone was having a hard day and just like,
So members of the support system must be securely connected together to prevent sliding, falling, kickouts, or other predictable failures. So, like this here, it appears to me that they're doing some horizontal boring under that. But they've just thrown the 2 side wall pieces in there, and there's no cross spacing. But also, when you look, there's the barricading's coming down on the backside. I'm kind of afraid that semi's gonna cut that corner a little sharp there. You can't see it. It's gonna be like the U-Haul and Terrace and the trip through the drive-through there at McDonald's. Take it out.
and we were going over that bridge and the wind was moving us. And she's like, should we keep on going? Or she's like, we're gonna go.
You made it though.
Yeah.
So there's 2 different effects they're talking about here. The theory of zero
More
movement,
happened
which
than
says
that.
shoring is designed to keep the walls of it from starting to move, but saying that the shoring itself is not strong enough to hold it back if it does move, so basically it's just gonna prevent it from moving. And the arch effect, which says that the walls are pushing back and holding it in place. So we're removing the protective system from the bottom up and backfilling as we go. Employees must not be permitted to work on the face of slope or benched excavations at levels above other people except when they're adequately protected. So here they're working up top, but it doesn't appear that there's anybody down below. So we can't subject shield systems to a load more than what they're capable of supporting. And employees are to be protected when entering or exiting the shield. So, you gotta be climbing in and out of that trench box with a ladder directly into it instead of riding a bucket in the hole or jumping down in the hole and crawling inside. That's something unfortunately I see way too often
part of the purpose of the whole trench box is to protect you if you're jumping in a hole and climbing the side of it. It's kind of, defeats the whole purpose of having a trench box, other than protecting you while you're working. So this is what I was talking about, the extension there, 18 inches above and minimum 2 feet. Employees must not be allowed in shields where shields are being installed, moved or moved vertically. So like I said, you can be in there when it's moved horizontally, just not vertically. Excavations of earth material to a level not greater than 2 feet below the bottom of the shield. So no more than 2 feet exposed below the bottom of the shield of the trench box there. So that's a diagram showing. The standard literally says that we should minimize the gap here between the sidewall and the trench box. Do you think there's more than 2 feet exposed to the bottom there? I'm gonna say yes, just because even though they're kind of bent over, it still looks like there's a pretty big gap between the bottom of that and where they're bent over. I'm gonna say there's probably at least 4 feet right below the bottom there. And you can definitely tell that that's layered in the soil there. At least they do have access and egress in and out of there. This is one of my favorites. Competent person's standing there lighting a cigarette. Trench box is doing nothing but supporting.
I was gonna say, they're not even in the.
Supporting equipment there. So they're not even working in the trench box, but even look over here. Those spoils are right there. That's just this is a bad situation here. If whoever took this picture didn't immediately pull their stop work card and say, you guys gotta get out of the hole, something's definitely wrong. So those guys are imminent danger. And that guy up there at the top, I mean, that's just stupidity and neglect, I guess. But just him standing there watching.
Because he could fall at any time and then
Well,
fall
he
on
can
these
slide
people.
in, and I mean, they're in immediate danger because they're down there in it. I have seen cases, I'm not gonna lie, where they were using, but they had multiple trench boxes where they were using trench boxes to support the equipment because it was so muddy, otherwise the equipment was just gonna sink. Another case of them working outside of the trench box. This exposed utility line there. You know what, a lot of that's probably the complacency and attitude there though, because you know what they're probably thinking. Well, I'm just gonna be out there for a second. I just gotta do this real quick. I'll get right back to the trench box. That real quick usually is generally when the whole thing's gonna cave in. So another fatal fact for us here. 4 employees, boring a hole and pushing a 20-inch pipe casing under a road. Employees were in excavation 9 feet wide, 32 feet long, 7 feet deep. Steel plate on the south wall tipped over, hitting an employee who was killed between the plate and the pipe casing. At the time, a backhoe was being operated at JCB excavation. So essentially, that backhoe created a vibration, caused that plate to fall over, and crush that person. So what does the competent person ultimately need to know? For one thing, soil classifications, and be able to determine soil type based on visual analysis and manual tests that we can do. A lot of times, your contractor is just gonna basically say everything's type C. Everything's type C, put a trench box in and not to worry about it. And that's, that's assuming worst case scenario. So some visual tests we can do, observe the soil as it's excavated, basically because if we're doing that, we can kind of see cohesion by looking at the sides, the side walls. Observed area adjacent to it, the open side of the excavation. Here we got layer, we also got water
monitor sources of vibration, traffic, proximity and condition of nearby structures, water presence, and utilities. We also gotta be mindful of the weather. So they're using equipment here, obviously that's gonna create significant surface encumbrance. Looks like some crappy dirt there is breaking off, you got some cracking going on. Versus this, you see the track marks, much more cohesive, more like clay there, right? Actually, here it's breaking away. This here is what's left of some wood shoring. I would feel confident saying I would almost guarantee you will never see wood shoring in your career. Because I don't feel like it's used all that much in wood at all. I don't know if you guys ever seen wood shoring out there? Or, wood shoring? Yeah. I've never seen it in person, just in some of these pictures.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I know people have done it, but
Yeah, I haven't seen it. I just feel like it's kind of an antiquated thing now, you know?
I think it's too much liability in building on.
Yeah. It's just easier to trench box and call it good. So the manual tests, there's different ones. There's a plasticity test, a dry stream, thumb penetration. We can use things things like a pocket penetrometer, or shear vein to do it, or we can use this is called a thread test. So basically you're taking the soil and rolling between your hands to see how long of a thread you can make, that will stay together. Same thing with the ribbon, but you're actually flattening it out. Longer the ribbon, more cohesive. That's the pocket penetrometer, so it's kind of hard to see. But there's a little mark right here. So you're pushing that into the soil to that mark. And this part up here at the top is gonna give you a reading. And TSF, which is tons per square foot, of unconfined compressive strength. And that's gonna be how you classify the soil, because different classifications are different numbers. I mentioned bringing one of those with me, and I apologize, I ran off and forgot a couple of them.
So they don't do all the dirt testing anymore, like having to go in the lab?
They do that for some stuff, but this is just, something that they can do kind of quickly out there in the field. The shear vein, a little more technical here. I've never seen one of those used, I'll be honest with you.
They're like a micrometer or something?
No, it's
Micrometer?
like, I think I got a video here. It actually shows this thing being used. Like I said, I've never actually seen one used. A real application. For some reason, it's not working. Hold on a second. Go back real quick. See if I can find anyone what's going on with this. No, sorry. But yeah, it's a little more technical. Like I said, I've never actually seen one of those used in a real application, but it's a little more technical. The thumb penetration test, this isn't a hitchhiker, so the thumb penetration
It's
test.
illegal now. I think it's
You're
illegal to
basically just
hitchhike.
pushing your thumb into the soil to see how much resistance you get. Your thumb goes right through it, probably class C or type C. If you get a little bit of resistance, but you can actually indent the soil, type B. If you get a lot of resistance and really have to push it in it, type A. It's not, this stuff isn't exact, but kind of gives you an idea. So definitions here for the cohesive soil. Clay or soil with high clay content, which has cohesive strength. does not crumble. Can be excavated with vertical side slopes, plastic when moist. You got granule, no cohesive stream, basically sand, crumbles easily. So unconfined compressive strength is the lower per unit, which is gonna fail, so that's what I was talking about. So type A, unconfined compressive strength, it's gonna be greater than 1.5 PSF. You would get that on that total pocket trauma, like I said, you push that thing in and it's gonna be read, and they're super simple to use. This is gonna be our most stable soil, not subjected to vibration of any type, never been previously disturbed, no seeping water. And then we got type B, it's gonna fall somewhere between that 0.5 PSF and less than 1.5. Medium stability, previously disturbed. And then type C is like worse, so less than 0.5, gravel, loamy sand, submerged soil, water's freely seeping. Like you look at this, it looks pretty granular there underneath that, concrete there, a lot of sand. This is our maximum allowable slopes for different, soil classifications here. So type A, this is horizontal over vertical, 3/4 to 1 or 53 degrees. Type B, 1 to 1 or 45, and type C, 1.5 to 1. So I said, if you got a big excavation, a lot of times you will see them just slope it back further than 85 inches, so. There again, that's that wooden shoring system. Like I said, I feel pretty confident that if I haven't seen it and Bart and Wade haven't seen it, you all are probably not gonna see it. But that's the aftermath, you know, of a failure there. So this is hydraulic shores here, basically. It's not like your videos today or something. So the hydraulic shores, usually they're this aluminum shore that like you slide down in there, and there's boards you put on each side. They're usually made out of plastic or hard plastic material. They're called fitting boards, and you slide them down in there and hook that shore up to a hydraulic pump, and it pushes it out. And the hydraulic fluid you put in there is made from all still water, so basically flat back out, biodegradables. I honestly don't know that I've heard of people using it, but I don't know if I've actually ever seen them. I've talked to people that were gonna use them, and mainly where they were gonna use them, it was more where they were getting into some high areas around foundations and stuff, so they couldn't get a trench box in. And it was just more of a,
Most of the time we use trench box, we step back.
I wish the video would play, but these videos are not working. So that's the spacing there, so. Similar to what we were doing before, but 18-inch max there at the top. 2 foot still at the bottom, 4 foot in between them. You want them basically uniform on that. They make 2 different, let's try to show you, there's 2 different ones here, and there's ones that have horizontal spacing on there too, as far as like horizontally go across. This is a case where they didn't put any kind of support like that fin form in. They just put the hydraulic shores in, push up against the walls, and then caved in. So, goes to show you, you gotta use things properly, but this gives you a better visual of what they look like. So like, this here is the handle, these here, so you pick that up and it would just slink down, and then you slide it down and it pushes it out. So they've 2 of them there, you're supposed to have 3, supposed to be uniform spaced apart. Plus, if you look, that looks kinda like they got it going at an angle, so it's not a real appropriate setup. Probably, we'll just be in here for a second. Emergency planning, gotta have access and egress at 4 feet, remember that? 5 feet's where we hit that, requirement or potential for cave-in for protective systems. Training in what to do and what not to do, which would be also, fighting your instincts, because your instincts, if somebody, gets trapped, is to jump in and help them, that's the worst thing to do. You're gonna become another victim. Medical response there. Also, no one had to describe the work site to emergency dispatcher, so when it's getting called in, make sure that you call it in, you're telling them, hey, we got a trench collapse here. If you don't, they're not gonna send the right people. And it's a tedious process, so don't jump in. Also, we mentioned earlier, not using equipment. Control the area. This is basically a rescue practice here. So they're using that back system to try to suck the dirt away, which is what they use up in Dupo, that incident I told you all about, where they had that guy buried up his neck.
But how do they, realistically, is that,
We do, or,
you're not gonna have that on the job site,
no,
it's too late. That's just that's just to make sure you don't tear up his body when you dig him out.
I mean, if you get that there in a timely manner, it's gonna work. It worked up there.
I can dig a guy out with my hands faster than if I let him go dig that.
Depends on how deep they are. You got 7 feet of dirt on them.
I mean, how long can they survive in 7 feet of dirt? Oh, up the neck.
Because of where he was located, but yeah.
Nowhere to pull all the borders.
Around here, I would say around here, you all probably have one. I would just, I think somebody actually told me where it was, but I would say there's probably gonna be one in the region down here probably that everybody's gonna have.
Yeah, I didn't even know anything existed.
Up there, they had, folks come from St. Louis and Belleville, so they were pretty fortunate. I mean, he honestly probably had that happen about the best place that could actually make it out. But yeah, you're right, Bart, it's gonna be a timely process.
I mean, I don't even know where to call, something like that would happen, it would be call 911, and 911 would show up, and they would be like, oh, we need to get this, and that's an hour and a half later.
It could be, I mean, the dispatchers would know what
Yeah, I mean,
numbers to,
as long as you're.
That's if
giving
you
them
tell
adequate
them.
information.
yeah.
I need a vacuum truck,
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, you tell them, hey, we got somebody buried in a trench out here. They'll probably say, well, how deep is it? Well, I don't know, it's 8 feet down, maybe.
you get a lot more faith in these 911 operators than I.
I try to see the good in everybody. So, that's excavations there. It's gonna be a timely process for sure to get that person out. It's not gonna be easy. I really wish that video would.
How many presentations like this have you given? Have you counted them?
No, honestly. No. A lot.
Okay,
That's my number, a lot.
awesome.
How many times have I been down here since you've been here, Bart?
A lot.
Yeah, at least, that's just for here.
How old am I? A lot?
Yeah. I don't know, I can count them for you. I got a file box at home with all my files for everything I've ever done.
Wow.
They require we keep them, they don't keep records. Like you call OSHA, they're gonna, we don't know, you need to get in touch with your outreach instructor.
How many times have they changed, like, your
Rules and stuff?
programs? Yeah, cause I'm sure they have to keep up with the brand new, I know you keep saying that you,
Well, every 4 years, we, like, your card does not expire. Every 4 years, we gotta go through another training. Basically. Which the last one, they didn't give us jack, I'll be honest with you. They didn't give us any kind of dates, because we had to do it online, six half days online.
Now, do you have to go through everything again, or just the new stuff?
It's mainly just like updates on stuff, but I'll be honest, the last time it was kind of, I don't even know that we really went through updated information. It was just, honestly, it was bad, because it was online. I'm not one for online training, I'll put it that way. I just don't feel like you can get as much out of it. So I'm gonna try to get through this material handling, and then we'll call it a day. So we covered quite a bit of material today, actually. So, pretty good. So, I think we talked a little bit already about like back injuries and things like that, but anytime we can, we wanna try to utilize mechanical means to pick things up versus exposing our backs, putting extra strain on our backs. But a lot of it comes to how we, the technique we use and how things are packaged. I'm not ready for that.
Well, you weren't really so many videos of it.
You know, you're fine, Bart. I'm glad you did. So, I'm just, so, some of the things here for material handling via machine would include our forklifts, which we'll talk more about tomorrow, cranes, rigging is all part of that, but also storage. Storing things properly, and when we kind of get deeper into that, we talk about load ratings, storage areas and stuff like that, because I heard you all talk about the floor collapse, on somebody, and that's because that load rating for that floor got violated, basically. Everything's got limitations as to what it can hold. So what about Mario here? Is I like to call him, Super Mario. He's got his
Good job.
toes. Leaning back. So definitely some undue strain on his back is the way he's lifting that, but also I'm concerned with his visibility, like he's not gonna be able to see where he's going. Just gonna be kind of awkward. It might not even be that heavy, but just an awkward load, an awkward way in which he's carrying it. He's probably gonna tweak his back. He might have like immediately hurt it. He's gonna do something to it later on. He's gonna have a back injury. He's gonna be like, I hurt my back injury and such. So other hazards here, improper manual lifting or carrying loads that are too large or heavy, now that I'm seeing that flying load, I'm thinking of McDonald's. Being struck by materials or being caught in pinch points. We talked about that, caught. It's as simple as not having a good place to put your hands when you're carrying something through an area, and you get your hands smashed in the door, or you go to sit down. Crushed by machines, falling materials are improperly stored, improperly cutting ties or security devices. Things are under tension. What do you guys think was, we're talking about the guy getting smacked in the face when he's unloading?
I did that for me. I've seen it.
Yeah.
You cut a strap.
Yeah, it comes back, you gotta think these things are under tension. They come back. Heard people darn near getting knocked unconscious because they ratchets, you get those bigger ones that are heavy. That-
Not the ratchet, I was told.
Yeah, it's heavy. Cracks my head with that, it's gonna be
There's
long.
a big dent inside my pickup,
Is there?
where I threw it over, hit something and swung, hit the little bit. It's like 3 inches below my window.
So do they do anything as far as like, say they're going a couple stories up and setting like steel trusses or something, do they tie them off on something to say if they were to fall, that they wouldn't go all the way to the ground? If it was real high up?
Are you saying like, are they having like a secondary protective measure for when they're lifting the,
Say it would break off a crane and it's stories up, they have something where if it falls, it's not gonna go all the way down to the ground?
not really, if that rigging fails, it's going down. And that's why you don't want them lifting that over people or vehicles, like what's going on.
I mean, it could be a mechanical break, it doesn't have to be the strap, it doesn't have to be, it could be a mechanical, or it could be an operator that.
You know, and here they're talking about, attaching handles and stuff. But in this case, if you look at the picture that they're showing here, this person's lifting by the packing straps on those glasses. So those aren't exactly handles, those are the packing straps, those are gonna break, you're gonna drop away. Can't say that I have done the same thing, but I generally never carry stuff by the packing straps, I usually use that, chuck it on the truck.
That's a lot of pressure on your fingers, it
Oh,
seems
yeah.
like. A
If
weight.
it's not about packing straps, they'll cut into your hands. You don't have gloves on. Depending on what they're made of, a lot of them are just like a hard plastic, like, some of them have metal bands on them. Those metal bands really cut into your
So we have a little triangle here, so that's orange. So who knows what's in those? Like if it's flammable or gas and it just drops, right? That could be really bad.
It's hazardous materials, potentially. So one thing they're saying here for safe lifting, break the load into different parts. Get help with heavier bulky items. Lift with our legs, keep our back straight, not twisting while we're picking stuff up. So you wanna avoid twisting as you're moving, because you can tweak your back that way. You really ideally wanna keep stuff between your shoulders and your waist level, which you see in this one. Looks like it's like a roll of like padding or something, like maybe one carpet padding or something. So it just seems to be awkward the way they lift it anyway.
It's like easy to shoot basketball, or you know, throw it up on the second floor.
Yeah, kinda. That's definitely, you did that multiple times over and over, that's gonna put some strain on your shoulders, arms for sure. So safe lifting training, going over people, proper lift techniques. What's the biggest thing as far as safe lifting?
Bending your knees.
Yes, lift with your legs, not with your back. How many times have we heard that? Till we're blue in the face.
In sports, you gotta bend your knees when you're at
I was
bat.
just saying for like picking stuff up, they always say size up the load, stand as close as possible. Bend with your legs, squat, pick it up, so lift with your legs, not with your back. Big thing here to me though is what can you comfortably handle without undue strain?
Anything light you pick up? I just said weight.
What's that?
I just said weight. That's the safest way to do it.
Well, that ain't very much.
Yeah, have somebody else do it, that's not preferred method. Have a younger back pick it up.
No. Get one of those, what's it called?
Forklifts.
Hand trucks. Yeah, dollies.
That's what this is right here.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, I just fold it down like that, I mean, it generally is upright, but I use that all the time because, well, number one, well, it works smarter, not harder. I'm gonna pack, those totes get heavy, especially that fall tote I had in here last week, that thing weighs about 75 pounds, I had to pack that in the truck. It's a long way. it too, like what we were talking about earlier with the McDonald's thing, is that proper use of equipment? No, because they're exposing whoever's in those vehicles. If that thing falls, I mean, what would you say, it was an AC unit you all said?
Yeah, it looked like it was at least 8x6.
Oh, shoot.
By 6 feet tall.
So if it's an AC unit, we're talking, yeah, thousands of pounds. If they drop that on a vehicle, yeah. Especially cars now. Cars now are basically fiberglass, a lot of it. It's just,
Well, they had their slaughter.
they have their stuff.
Ah,
Keep blowing around the
Who's,
truck.
who's gonna watch this thing destroy somebody?
Single word, parked literally on top of the dog outrigger.
if he's dead, you know something went wrong.
That's how good of a spotter he was. He didn't say nothing to somebody parking on top of the outrigger there.
I almost hit it when I backed up. I was right there.
You should have just gone ahead and hit it. So you guys wouldn't drive through it the right away. You guys didn't have proper barricading. I'll be, my insurance company will be in touch with you.
Call you right now.
Alright, check this out.
Yeah, they start threatening you, say, well, you know, I think I'll just take some pictures here and send this over to OSHA. See what they have to say. They probably call their boss and be writing you a check right then and there for the damage on your truck.
Right, get articles of interpretation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they wouldn't want OSHA out there, that's for sure. So if we're handling sharks, we gotta be mindful that, you know, when you're handling materials, I'd rather not have free food at McDonald's. If it's like Chick-fil-A or Wendy's or somewhere, I'll take a year's supply. But, McDonald's, they can keep it.
That's what I said, if I knew all the stuff you did, I'd have to be people every other year.
I'm not gonna use it for extortion purposes. You know? Yeah. So, sharp edges, anything that can cut you or puncture wound, you gotta protect against. I try to say safety toe shoes now because too many people are not wearing steel toes. Employees must be trained in the proper use and limitations of equipment. You know, we wanna use forklifts or lifting devices where we can, because it's gonna, you know, it's gonna eliminate all that wear and tear on your body and your back. But with forklifts, you know, there's an inherent danger too, because we gotta make sure people are properly trained, like we were talking about earlier with the straddle stacker. And straddle stacker, if you all don't know what we're talking about, it's basically a walk behind forklift that they use in retail places to put pallets and stuff up on shelves. So it's the same thing. It's got all the dangers, but it handles a little differently than the power industrial truck. So training is definitely important. Don't place extra weight on the rear counterbalance. You ever seen somebody riding on the back of a forklift before? May or may not have done that several times.
I've never really done that. Here you go.
I got you. Got a lot on that one, but I did it at a young age. I was doing that before I was old enough to drive. But there's a video, and some of you may have seen this video from, I think it was from, might have been Japan. But this forklift was leaning forward, like completely forward, the counterweight on the back was completely off the ground, and you see this little short lady come running in out of nowhere, and she jumps on that counterweight on the back, and she slips, and that forklift goes back, and I mean, goes right down on top of her, and then they made a mistake of, they tried to pull forward to get off of her, and they got like, she was wedged underneath the back part of it.
Just put your phone out.
Well, I think they were trying to make adjustments to balance it out while she was coming in there, because this was not a big person, but there was already one person standing on there, I believe, and she comes running in like her little bit of 100 pounds is gonna make a difference.
So they're probably looking to do something heavy, and you have people on the back of the whole.
Trying to balance it out on that counterweight, but she thinks she's gonna make a difference, and she runs in, and I think at that exact time, they adjusted the load and it flipped back, and she slid off.
Oh, man.
But then they made the mistake of trying to pull forward to get it off of her, and then she's wedged underneath there. It was just a bad deal. So definitely risk with the forklift if people aren't trained properly, or hazards, I should say. keeping arms and legs inside and handle only stable loads, keep it a low speed, which forklifts don't move very fast to begin with. I said we'll talk more deeply about some of this stuff tomorrow. No riders, no riding on the counter. Supposed to only allow people 18 years of age and greater to drive industrial trucks. But there has to
Our
be-
guys get forklift licenses. Which I'm not doing anything.
Really? Cool. Who does that?
Workforce development over here, off property.
So these dock boards gotta have proper handles on the side, because otherwise when we're moving those and shifting them, that becomes tension, right? Smash your fingers. We're talking about earth moving equipment here, just to obstruct the view. Gotta have proper backup signals like we talked about. Traveling in bursts, if you can't see it in front. Cranes, well, remember Big Blue? Gotta be aware of that load chart. There's inspections that have to take place. Gotta be mindful of your proximity to power lines. Ensure area travel is clear.
Never let people.
So rigging equipment, this is important too. There's different types of slings out there. They got chain, wire rope, metal mesh, and synthetic web over there. So a lot of that's gonna depend on what you're lifting, you know? You'll probably see that synthetic sling and the wire rope more than any of them, to be honest with you. Just because the wire rope is so versatile, because it's, you can pick up stuff and it's not gonna damage it. So when do we have to inspect these? Each day before use, where service conditions warrant. If it's damaged or defective, it's gotta be removed from service, and I think I mentioned this before, but gotta be taken out if, if the load rating tag is illegible. I removed some in the last couple of months that weren't really all that rough as far as the condition, but the load rating tag was completely faded out, or you couldn't even make out any of the numbers on it. It's gonna be a lot cheaper on you. You get an ocean inspection, they're gonna get you on this.
You take those home and use them.
No, I don't even ask for them, because that looked a little suspicious. I'm like, hey,
You
can throw it out. Which I guess I could say, hey, if you guys are gonna throw that away, you might take it and use it for the prop.
And it's easy for it's bad to truck.
Yeah.
It's all there, sleep.
Completely bad, I'm just trying to save you guys from getting hurt. Go ahead,
Guard
roll
the best
that.
I can.
That table saw, yep, here's a load of
Part of the deal, when you hire me, I take all the crap.
Take all of it. So that wire rope sling there is starting to kind of pull out. The good thing about the chain slings is it's gonna adapt and shape more to the load. You can pick up hot loads with the chains. It can damage by sudden shocks, especially. There is a tag on it though, that gray tag on it is required. You gotta make sure that's present. And there's a grade stamp on these on the side of the chain there. Hooks, rings, links, any other attachments when used with alloy chains have to have a rated capacity at least equal to the chain. So a right versus wrong, they're improvising here with the shop hook. Just using it other than the main manufacturing and releases. Well, part of it too is that we don't know what that mold is gonna be rated for, so that may probably break. And that's a chain that's quite aged, as you can tell by all the pits on it. Probably time to take it out. They're just showing the composition there of the wire rope sling. Some of the considerations: ability to bend without cracking, ability to withstand abrasive wear, and withstand use. Like I said, I mainly see wire rope and those synthetic webs are the ones I see the most of. Probably the synthetic webs, saying here, any ice splices made in a wire rope must have 3 little tucks around there. So we're just talking about that there. Cover or blunt protrude against the strands. Some of this stuff you're probably not gonna really see. This here, there's a saying that goes with this, and Bart, Wade probably
Never
heard it.
saddle a dead horse.
Yes. So you all probably don't understand what he's saying there, but this is the dead end here, right? This is the saddle over here. So if you put the saddle over on this dead end, it's gonna slide right out. So that's why you don't saddle a dead horse. But that's the easiest way to remember it. It's never saddle a dead horse. I figured you guys had heard that before too. So you gotta maintenance these things, you know, they get dried out. These are the ways in which you see the damage. Really, the kinking and the bird caging are what I see the most in my inspections when I'm looking at these wire ropes. Probably the kinking just as much as the bird caging. Sometimes they'll get kinked so bad that there's no way to do that, you know, they'll straight back out. So there's that load tag. Look here, if you look closely, you can see that they're giving you different ways, like a vertical capacity, a choker capacity, a basket capacity, so different ways in which you can use that. They're gonna have a different rated capacity for that sling. Fittings have to be at least as strong as that of the sling, free of sharp edges that could damage the webbing. Stitching is the only method allowed to attach end fittings to the webbing. So pretty evident what happened here, probably got up against an exhaust on a piece of equipment or something. Got just a char mark there. In some cases, things get chemicals or things spilled on that are gonna degrade the material. Any snags or tears in the stitching or anything, distortion of fittings. If you remember when we were doing that presentation last week, we saw that one sling that was just faded, all frayed out, the red thread was showing. I was like, this is a textbook. Here's what you all were talking about earlier. The floor collapsing. So post safe load limits on the floor, secure materials, sorted tiers, valves and passages clear. If you look at the bottom, it's talking about a load rating for that floor. And I don't know if you all were thinking of the same incident, because I saw one several years ago, but it was over in South Carolina for these kids, I think it's Clemson, shouldn't say kids, but young adults, students, were having this big party in this, like, they called it a clubhouse, but I think it's more like just like the rental office for this apartment complex. And there was like 200 of them, and the floor collapsed underneath.
Walker always told a story about, Carbondale. He got called in, the floor collapsed over one of the houses, on, Walnut Street. Was he told the story? They brought in 15 tons of sand and spread it through the whole house to have a beach party. And the floor collapsed.
Who they got that was willing to haul all that in and put that?
He said that when he got there, it was like 4 to 6 inches of sand through the entire first floor.
That's awesome.
The idea,
They had a Toga beach party.
That's taken it to the extreme
that's
for some.
hilarious, but.
Yeah, but this is probably in the mid-90s.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Carbondale used to be like in the top, like 5 party schools in the whole country. It was up there. There was a